what does Las Vegas Republicans, what do the state of Republicans in the state of Nevada have to do to make sure that we are heard? Welcome to Nevada Today. I'm your host, Patrick Cassell. In this time with politicians going all over the place, not having enough energy, never having enough to say, this politician's a totally different person. She's got energy, she's got pizzazz, and she kicks ass. Her name is Michelle Fiore. She is the city councilwoman from Ward 6. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Pat, for having me on your show.
I was excited. You have a lot going on. You're busy. You have a lot of energy, and you're positive for Nevada. More importantly, a new position is opening up with the state party, and it's for a Nevada committee woman, which I think you're going to be golden, and I think the RNC will have their hands full because you have a lot of energy and you have a lot of good ideas that speak mainstream America.
Thank you. And I have to tell you, it's an honor to actually step up and run for the Republican National Committee woman. First, I have to tell you that Diana Orrock has been a rock star, and I'm sorry to see her step down. I didn't know she was stepping down, and I got the phone call from our chairman, Michael McDonald, on July 29th, which happened to be my birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. So he was so sweet. He calls and he goes, "Happy birthday." And I'm like, "Oh, thank you." And I'm thinking, Michael McDonald's calling me on my birthday. So he said, "Michelle, you're going to be our next RNC committee woman." And I said, "Excuse me?" And he said, Diana Orrock just stepped down, and we need someone that is great for the party, energetic, not shy, not afraid to ask, and not afraid to give ideas and suggestions when it comes to Nevada. So I said, okay, let me think about it. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm in. So it was that fast.
And people don't realize you do react very quickly. I remember earlier in the month when we were trying to win over the RNC committee for the site committee for the convention for 2020. You got called up, and within 15 minutes, you allowed us to have a meeting with Mr. Kaufman and company. Your energy was there. You wanted it to be done. And unfortunately, we had a lot of people pull strings that hurt us. We'll talk about that later. But more importantly, you do jump up and say, okay, I'm ready. Let's go. Let's get it done. That's important, and we need more people like you. Diana was very, very good. And what most people don't realize is how hard this job really is. It's time-consuming, and it's not free. It's not like the state's paying for anything. So that's where it's really important. We needed somebody strong who can generate interest from local Nevadans as well as on a national picture. We count now for Donald Trump.
Yes, we do. Because remember, once upon a time, Nevada was ranked 50. And now with all of the work that the RNC and our chairman, Michael McDonald, has been doing, we're number 1. So I have to continue that, and we have to keep that up. So when we look at the state of Nevada, and when we look at re-elections, and when we look at bringing business to Nevada, especially Las Vegas and Reno, and all through, we have 17 counties that we have to work with and for. So as a city councilwoman for the city of Las Vegas, I travel a lot with the LVCVA board, and we bring a lot of business here. So now, as an RNC committee woman, as your next RNC committee woman, saying that the Central Committee will elect me to represent Nevada, that's going to be many trips back to DC. Michael has asked me to be on the fundraising committee because as the RNC committee, there's many committees, including fundraising and rules and policies. And so as a member of the RNC, as a future member of the RNC, we look at policies and we look at our platform rules. So it's going to be you have to be diligent and decisive and time managed very, very well. So if you take 3 hours once or twice a week with fundraising goals for the state of Nevada. I know when we were looking at having the Republican National Convention here, we were going to be having to raise about $75 million. So that's a tall order, and I'm willing to roll up my sleeves and jump in and do that.
The return on investment is very strong.
Oh, without a doubt, without a doubt.
Here's a question for you. So what are some of your goals and ambitions once you get elected? And what would you like to see done on a national level where all the states would come together and do whatever Michelle thinks is a great idea? What would your goal be?
So number one, we really have to get our red book. There's a blue book out there that the Democrats have, and I'm not shy from learning from successful campaigns. And when we look at the United States as a whole, we need to look at what they've done, what worked, and what we've done and what worked and what hasn't worked. when we look at our candidates and when we look at making sure we are in the fight and winning the fight, we're going to have to spend more money on training and candidates across America, of course, but here in the state of Nevada, we need folks that, number one, stand together with the party, period, united party. So when we have individual candidates that maybe we disagree with a vote that they might have done, but when we look at the whole picture, we don't divorce candidates or Republican incumbents. We rise them to the level, we hold their feet to the fire, and we work with them. The one thing that is so important with being on this committee is making sure that our CEO, which is Donald Trump, gets reelected.
That question. In Nevada specifically, I'd like to see us get more engaged with the youth, younger generation. Charlie Kirk was here a few weeks back. He was talking to Michael and company. And I got to know Charlie in Chicago several years ago. We have got to get our young voters engaged in Nevada. You have the ability to, for some reason, to get those young people in, maybe because you are young, but it's important to get them involved. What would you like to see done, and how would you do it?
Well, first of all, I have to tell you that one of my most loyal employees, which is Chance Bonaventura, started with me when he was 16. He's now 22. He writes for my magazine, Truth in Politics, the magazine. He heads up a youth group. Both of my daughters, who are 24 and 25, they're active in our party. So when we look at, and plus I also go and I speak with the college kids, at CSN, at UNLV, I talk to the political sci-fi classes, and I have them get involved, whatever party they're with. The youth's voice is so important to get them active and activated. If they want to go protest, whatever it is that they want to do, you empower them and you make them participate. With our particular Republican youth, I have to tell you, we have great leadership. The UNLV Young Republicans are amazing. And we have a lot of different young Republicans coming out and participating in elections, making the phone calls, going to a call base, going door knocking, meeting people. So I'm very proud of our party here in the state of Nevada. Our youth have stepped up. I personally have one on my team that works with me in the city and then also works with me in everything else I do.
That's really exciting. And that's going to be a very important part of our futures, because I think the youth, they're confused in a lot of ways. I mean, they're getting hit from both sides. Antifa is really rough. So it'll be an interesting turn of events. We must do this. A couple other things. As a voter, I'm very disappointed sometimes in the fact that we eat our own. Mm-hmm. We have an incumbent who's done a good job, and yet people want to run against that individual. And I think it's everybody's right to want to run, but sometimes we run in such a terrible manner. What would you like to see done differently about that?
Again, it's uniting the party. So and just talk to them in simple language. It's just like a marriage, okay? So if you're married and you and your wife don't agree 100% of the time, but you agree 90% of the time, you don't get divorced. So when you look at our CEO, our President of the United States, when you look at Donald Trump and what he needs from our U.S. Senate and from our Congress, we better make sure that we keep the folks that we have in their seats and look to pick up other seats. Because let's say we don't fight hard to keep our incumbents that are Republican, and then all of a sudden, let's say we don't vote. What we're basically doing is putting an adverse effect on an election to where it could hurt the movement of the president and his goals for America and making America great again. So when we look at, and again, we have to look at everything as a whole picture. This is truly a marriage. Sometimes we're going to disagree with our incumbents. However, when you're family, you still stick up for one another and you fight for one another and you help one another. You can have that conversation about, I didn't agree with you on this vote, but I support you. And that is the number one with the RNC, that we need to support our own, we need to stop eating our own, and that, I think, is going to be a defining moment in the re-election of our president.
Interesting. I mean, to me, it's so important that Dean Heller wins the Senate seat. That's a no-brainer. And I've heard many people that are Republican, so I'll never vote for him. I'm like, if you don't vote, you can't bitch. But more importantly, not voting helps the enemy. And
That's
I
correct.
don't think Jackie Rosen is the option we want in Nevada. It's really, really important that Dean Heller gets voted in, as well as we have congressional seats 3 and 4, where I believe Crescent Hardy has a good chance to win. We have to ensure he wins, as well as Danny. If we can get a 3-1 edge in the congressional seats and split off in the Senate seats, Nevada becomes a main power.
You know, I have to tell you, I think both Crescent Hardy and Danny Tarkanian, I think they have learned, and their teams have learned, where the balls were dropped in their previous elections versus where they better hang on to that ball. They better not drop the ball in this election because a lot depends upon it. So I really have a lot of faith in Danny Tarkanian and a lot of faith in Crescent Hardy to pull it out. These guys are out there. I just was with Danny this past weekend and Crescent the weekend before. We're going to be doing our pasta events for Danny and Crescent, as well as Dean again. And so, again, it's getting the neighbors and everyone involved to get out there, make a couple of calls, ask their neighbors to go and vote, and getting people to the polls.
So if you'd like, I can cook.
Oh, fabulous.
I would love to make pasta for everybody, and my meatballs are better than anything on the strip.
You're going to have to make enough for about 200 folks.
That's easy.
Okay.
In fact, I cooked for 60 or 70 for the Las Vegas Greater Real Estate Association. I gladly would do that.
Okay.
That kicked right in. That'd be fun.
There you go.
Well, we're going to go to a break. And before we go to the break, I just want you to know this has been a great 12 minutes. I can't wait for the next segment. I'm pumped, really pumped. You're watching Nevada Today. My name is Pat Casale. Every week we're going to be here. We're going to be talking to the local politicians, state politicians, national politicians. Stay tuned for more. We'll be right back after this.
Newsflash. Local attorney Paul Patter wins a $160 million verdict against a strip casino.
Paul Patter got me a $160 million verdict.
In a wreck, need a check? Don't settle for pennies on the dollar. At Paul Patter Law, we know how to win. We recently received one of the largest verdicts in Nevada history, $160 million. As I always say, don't get mad, get legal.
Paul Patter got me a $160 million verdict.
Welcome back. This is Nevada Today. I'm your host, Pat Casale, and I'm joined by our city councilwoman, Michelle Fury. You know, Michelle, I was really upset we didn't get the RNC convention. We almost got it despite a letter that was written in February by Mr. Rollencotter saying we didn't want it. His actions really surprised me. What was your take on that?
Well, actually, because I am on the LVCVA and I work with Rossi, I found out that besides him not wanting the RNC convention here, our Republican National Convention here, he also sent that same letter to the DNC. So understand that a lot of times when these big conventions want to come to Las Vegas, they want a lot of free stuff. So what we're looking at now, as a sitting city councilwoman, I have to tell you, I want both the Republican National Convention
Absolutely.
here in the city of Las Vegas, as well as welcoming the Democrat National Convention here in the city of Las Vegas. And so, and again, we have to talk with both of these conventions, raise the money, $75 million. If the RNC has to raise it, I'm sure the DNC has to raise it, and get them here. I will tell you that I'm extremely excited that we in the city of Las Vegas, we are building a convention center down near the World Market Center, so which can absolutely house the Republican National Convention as well as the Democrat National Convention. So I just want to be clear and on the record that Rossi has written both letters to both parties, the RNC and the DNC, and said that at this time we're not open to hosting.
And I have to disagree with them because the timing of the events are the dead time on the strip. It's in the summer. Usually it's the second or third week in July through the first week in August. And that would be an amazing ROI for the state of Nevada, especially if you could put two conventions together at one time, back to back. The rooms we have, we can accommodate people. We have the ability to handle any type of convention. But you're looking at it where most places get a 3 or 4 to 1 return on their money. We would get about a 10 to 12 to 1, especially if you did back to back. And now you're talking $1.3 billion, $1.4 billion that could come to the state of Nevada, city of Las Vegas.
So I totally understand that. And so from an outsider looking in, exactly how you feel is, why did we make that decision? But what most outsiders don't understand is our budget at the LVCVA, because we're building and expanding the convention center and we're spending a lot of money, and our tax revenue that pays for the LVCVA was cut a little short, and we cut our budget significantly this past budget year. We just don't have the funds to entertain and host, and all of the giveaways and all the freebies that go along with hosting the Republican National Convention as well as the Democrat National Convention. So it literally was a business decision for both parties, and it was literally nonpartisan. So I really have to get that on the record.
I'm glad you did, because you cleared up some things for me, because I was really angry. My angst, I voiced it on my radio show as well. I'm on every Friday, and I was really upset. I'm thinking, what are you kidding me? The casino, we could have put this in a block and solidified
Well,
everything.
we still can. So let's just focus
24.
on 2024,
Okay.
and we're looking at that. I'm working with the convention center over at the World Market, and we've already talked about if we could get it built in time for this convention season, but now we're going to North Carolina.
Well, I'm
so.
sure if you're involved, it'll happen. That's a good thing. So some of the other things, what do you see happening in Nevada? I mean, we have a lot of crazy things going on between the governor's race, the lieutenant governor, you have the AG's office, et cetera. What do you think? What's your gut feeling? What do you see happening? Who's going to dominate Nevada? Who's going to be in control? Who's going to be the governor?
You know, the governor's race is going to be tight. I'm just going to tell you. The governor's race is going to be a tight race. So both parties, the Republican Party, it's not time to waver. It is not time to shy away. It is time to roll up your sleeves and work. Same with the Democrat Party. It's going to be a race to the top. You have Steve Sisolak, you have Adam Laxalt, and then you have variables, right? You have Ryan Bundy in this race, which Ryan Bundy will definitely take some votes from Republicans that were upset that some of our Republican members didn't endorse a sitting assemblyman an assemblyman that won the primary. So that Adam lost an endorsement from a sitting commissioner, which could hurt. Then you have, I think, a libertarian and an independent, as well as Ryan Bundy in that governor's race. So it's just not Republican-Democrat. So you've got a ticket that can be split. So, and you've got to make that up. So I think, once again, when you're supporting the Republican Party, you're supporting the Republican Party, and that means everyone. If they're on that Republican ticket, here in the state, I want you to think about this. If Steve Sisolak is our next governor, right, and we don't have a veto-proof lower house and upper house, we can be in big trouble. So you better support every assembly member and every senator that is on that ticket to make sure we can voice our opinion, and we can make sure that we have a voice in Carson City, because that's going to be very tough if we don't. Adam Laxalt as the governor, I think, and Michael Roberson as the lieutenant governor. Michael Roberson is going to follow Adam's conservative lead, and you have to understand, when Michael was first elected, Michael Roberson, he was the #1 conservative in the state, total rock star. I watched him. I was up there in the 2011 session, and definite rock star. And then he followed Brian Sandoval. Brian Sandoval into that commerce tax, hurt his reputation. But again, when you lead from the top, and Brian gives his soldiers the marching order to implement the commerce tax, that's what Mike did. When I'm looking at an Adam Laxalt governor, when Adam Laxalt, basically says, okay, this is a conservative effort, these are your marching orders, then the soldiers will fall in line as well.
You bring up Ryan Bundy, and you were very involved. You're very instrumental in the Bundy issues that went on throughout the country, in the state, Oregon. I think it was Oregon, right, or Washington. What's your take on him running for office? I mean, nothing negative. Just
Yes.
I understand he still has a sore spot for Mr. Laxalt.
He has a little sore spot. You have to understand, they reached out for help so much, and no one would help him.
You did.
I did, and I will continue to help all of our Nevadans, especially when I find the federal government in this particular case was extremely overreaching. The individual that created this ruckus, which was Daniel P. Love, which was the special agent in charge of the whole Bunkerville incident, is fired. He has left dead people in his wake. He is a poor excuse for a federal agent, and I am very saddened that the BLM kept him on as long as he did. He refused to acknowledge orders by our previous sheriff, Sheriff Gillespie at the time. He was truly a rogue agent and created a lot of pain and suffering for Nevadans, including the Bundy family. So we did need to step up a little bit more, and a lot of electeds didn't. I did, and I caught the heat from it. And let me tell you, if I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't change a thing. I stand up for what's right, popular or not. So, like me or not, I'm going to always protect you. And if you're a Nevadan, I'll always be there listening to you. Whether no one else will or not, I will listen to you and assess the situation myself. Was I asked not to engage as much as I did? Absolutely. And I said, I'll back off the engagement if you, Mr. Higher Up, take it up and fix it in the correct manner. So, when I see people that don't act, then I will.
The one thing about you, you walk the walk and you talk the talk. I've got to know you over the years, and I commend you for that. Is there any chance that we can bring Mr. Bundy and Mr. Laxalt together to work together and try to patch up all the misgivings from the past?
I believe so. I mean, you have to have willing participants, right? So, I believe I believe that if Adam Laxalt is willing to meet with Ryan Bundy, I think that Ryan Bundy would probably be willing to meet with Adam Laxalt.
I like that. Now, you talked about the commissioner from Nye County.
Yes.
I want to talk about that a little bit. Dennis Hoff didn't ask for anybody's endorsements. Obviously, he understood where he was at. All he wants was a fair shake. And I thought it was pretty foolish of anybody on our side, on our ticket, to not support Dennis. I think Dennis Hoff is a very conservative businessman, pays his taxes, does what's right. What was your take on all that? I thought that was bad for our...
That's a mistake. So again, number one, as your next RNC committee woman, we support all Republicans.
Absolutely.
Okay, period. The brothel industry in the state of Nevada is legal in 15 out of the 17 counties. And when you have that, and when you have Dennis Hoff, who I consider a friend, who's honest and works hard and is willing to work with everyone across the aisle, he's a great candidate. He won fair and square, and not by a small margin. He won fair and square by a large margin. And so with that, we embrace our own and we promote them. So again, if Republicans keep wanting, shooting themselves in the foot, that's too bad.
When you look at Oscarson was disassociated or taken out of the Nye County party. Oscarson's track record, he voted more left than he did the right based on some of the things I saw. I think Dennis Hoff is a great choice. Not to mention, Mr. Hoff is supposedly giving up a lot of his business holdings to be an assembly person, and they were very highly paid in assembly.
Yes.
Make big bucks.
Yeah, we make $8,000 every 2 years.
Yeah.
So you really have to pay to represent in some situations. My particular situation, I brought my own staff up, so any monies that I would get, I would give directly to my staff and then write an additional check. The per diem there doesn't cover if you're flying back and forth every weekend, as I was, because we live in the south, not in the north. So the per diem there runs out by April. They'll pay like $700 towards your rent for 4 months, and you're going to have to rent a place for minimally 6 months because no one wants a short-term lease. So, the experience that I had as an assemblywoman, it cost me money to represent the state of Nevada, and I'm not complaining about it. I'm just saying when you have an individual that has a significant amount of income from his businesses that's willing to give that up, I think a thank you is more in order than a slap in the face.
Well, I want to thank you for being here. I'll tell you this, before we wrap it up. I'd like to see the assembly people get a pay raise. Okay, that I'll sit here and say. And a lot of people look at me like I'm crazy. It needs to be done. Thanks so much for joining us here on Nevada Today.
Thank you so much for having me.
We got to do this again real soon. My name is Pat Casal. Thank you. We'll be here every week. Nevada Today. Check us out on 360 News Las Vegas, Amazon Fire Stick, and Roku. You'll see us on all over Facebook. You'll see us all over the place. We're here for you. Thank you and God bless.